Imagine two doors. Behind the first, a concrete block, steel bars, the hum of fluorescent lights, voices echoing off cinder block walls. Behind the second, a quiet space with sunlight on pale wood, a small kitchen, shelves of books, and a door that, while locked, looks like it belongs on a college dorm. Both are prisons. One is in America, the other is in Norway. Here's the question. If the goal is safer streets and fewer future victims, which door actually works better? Today, we're stepping into two very different worlds to ask a deceptively simple question. What is prison for? By the end of this video, you'll see how that single answer reshapes architecture, daily routine, officer training, family contact, and life after release. And you might walk away with a surprising thought. Sometimes the softer thing is the tougher thing, because it forces change. Why this comparison matters. Prisons aren't just about people in there. They're about everyone out here. Most incarcerated people come home. They'll ride your bus, apply for a job at your cousin's shop, move into the apartment down the street. So the way prison shapes them, shapes the community they return to. If we only talk about punishment inside the walls, we miss what happens when those walls open. Norway and the United States have taken different paths, and those choices ripple far beyond the prison yard. Let's start with the North Star each system follows. Norway's philosophy can be summed up like this. People go to prison as punishment, not for punishment. The sentence is the loss of freedom. Everything else aims at building a life that won't return to crime. In the US, the prevailing mindset in many places is simpler. Prison is the punishment. The focus leans toward incapacitation and deterrence. Control first, change if possible. 2 sentences, 2 blueprints. And from those blueprints, 2 very different buildings emerge. Who goes to prison and for how long? Because the philosophies diverge, so do the sentences. Norway tends to use shorter terms with a stronger emphasis on what happens during those months or years. Education, work skills, treatment. The US often uses longer terms, especially for certain offenses, and relies heavily on plea deals and complex layers of parole and probation. These are general patterns, and there's variation on both sides. But ask this. If a system expects people to rebuild their lives, how does it spend their time? If a system expects them to do time, how does it spend theirs? Those expectations shape nearly every hour. Walk into a Norwegian facility like Halden, and the philosophy is visible. Natural light, warm materials, private rooms that look more like small studios than cells, bed, desk, closet, a window you can actually look out of. Shared kitchens where people cook together. Art on the walls. Outside there are trees, not just razor wire and perimeter roads. The design principle is normalization. Make prison resemble ordinary life as much as security allows, so people practice ordinary life. In much of the US, the visual language is different. Big blocks of concrete, stacked tiers, clanging doors, harsh lighting, built to contain, not to resemble anything outside. Overcrowding is common in many jurisdictions. The physical message is clear. This is a place apart. That physical message seeps into behavior. Environments coach us, even when we don't notice. In Norway, a unit's daily schedule looks closer to a school timetable than a warehouse for people. Mornings might mean classes, basic education, language, computer literacy. Afternoons could mean carpentry, culinary training, auto mechanics, or a workshop where you produce something somebody actually uses. Evenings might include cooking a meal with your unit, cleaning your space, meeting a counselor, or exercising. The heartbeat word is purpose. In the US, there are certainly programs, GED classes, vocational options, reentry courses, but access varies wildly by state, by facility, by budget, by custody level. In some places you can advance quickly, in others you spend long stretches idle, waiting for a slot that never opens. Time without purpose is gasoline for conflict. Time with purpose is a fire break. Officers and training. If Norway's buildings look different, the people in uniform act different too. Their core idea is dynamic security. Safety grows from relationships. Officers are trained not just to monitor, but to mentor. Think social work mixed with custody. The uniform doesn't disappear, but the role expands. They eat in the same areas, talk with residents daily, and learn names, family stories, goals. The relationship itself becomes a tool for de-escalation. In many American facilities, officer training is shorter and more tactical. The job is often framed as command and control in a high-risk environment. and it is high risk. There are bright spots where departments are experimenting with communication skills and mediation, and some units are rethinking the culture. But the default posture is still, enforce the rules first, connect if there's time. Security and discipline. Security isn't a switch, it's a spectrum. Norway uses open, closed, and high-security facilities, but within all of them, the aim is to prefer normal life wherever possible. Physical force and isolation exist, but are used sparingly, with guardrails and review. The point is to keep people in conditions that mirror society, so they practice managing frustration and conflict without violence. In the US, segregation, time alone, limited movement has been used more widely, though reforms are underway in many states. The debate is tense and complicated. Segregation can stop immediate harm. It can also erode mental health. The question isn't whether safety matters. It does, but how to keep units safe and prepare people to navigate a crowded bus stop or a stressful workplace the week they come home. Health, mental health, and addiction care. You can't talk about crime without talking about trauma, addiction, and untreated illness. Norway approaches healthcare in prison as an extension of its national system. The idea is continuity, the same standards, the same approach, so that treatment doesn't break when someone enters custody. That means medication-assisted treatment for addiction, counseling, and steady handoffs to community clinics. The US is patchier. Some facilities offer strong services, others struggle with staffing, cost, or policy constraints. Private vendors play a large role in many jurisdictions, which introduces another layer of incentives. When healthcare is a maze, people exit with unsolved problems, and unsolved problems don't vanish at the gate. They come home. In Norway, contact with the outside world is part of the rehabilitation plan. Visits are encouraged. Phone costs are not designed to punish families. The message is, family can be an anchor against reoffending, so keep that line strong. You'll also find a different attitude toward civic rights in some cases. Again, the philosophy is continuity with normal life, wherever it's safe to allow it. In the US, families often shoulder heavy burdens. Long travel to remote prisons, expensive calls, rules that can feel arbitrary, and long, exhausting security lines. None of this is done out of spite. It's the logic of a system built around control and scarce resources. But the unintended consequence is that family becomes another victim of the sentence, and that loss can echo when the person comes home. Reentry is the most important word you rarely hear outside policy circles. In Norway, planning begins when the sentence begins. Do you have identification? Housing lined up? A job path? Health appointments? A mentor? The goal is a soft landing. No gap between the structure of custody and the structure of community. In America, the picture depends on where you are. Some places invest in re-entry navigators, ID clinics, housing partnerships, employer pipelines. Others discharge people with a packet and a bus ticket. Imagine stepping off the curb with nowhere to sleep, no ID, no job lead, and fines waiting. It's not a second chance, it's a second cliff. Norway spends more per person, runs smaller systems, and aligns investments with the outcome it wants. People who won't come back. The US spends immense sums across federal, state, and county levels simply because the system is so large. The central question for taxpayers shouldn't be how much per day, but what do we buy for the money? If $1 spent on a counselor saves $10 in future arrests, courts, and victims' losses, it's not softness, it's arithmetic. Case studies: Halden and Bastøy. Picture Halden, music rooms, workshops, a climbing wall in the yard, airy classrooms. Critics see luxury. Staff see a training ground for self-control, where you practice living with other people, solving boredom without violence, and expressing anger without a weapon. Now jump to Bastøy, an open-style prison on an island, where responsibility scales up. Residents manage more of their daily life, work outdoors, and move with trust built over time. Neither place is a vacation. The key is structure that looks like life, not like a bunker. So the habits you need out there are built in here. To be fair, the US is not one thing. There are American facilities with impressive education programs, treatment units that change lives, and re-entry centers forging real employer partnerships. There are sheriffs and wardens pushing cultural change and piloting Scandinavian-style housing units. It's a huge country. Excellence and failure coexist, zip code to zip code. Too soft. That's the first critique. But ask, soft for whom? for the person who must look in a mirror, attend counseling, repair trust with family, and face the work of change every day. Soft isn't the right word. It's structured, demanding, relentless. That's Norway. It'll never work here. True, no model copies perfectly across cultures, but specific pieces travel well. Better officer training, smaller units, serious education, practical re-entry logistics, affordable family contact. These aren't Norwegian, they're human. What about people who commit serious crimes? Norway's approach applies to them too. The principle holds. People are more than the worst thing they've done, and the public is safest when release, whenever it comes, follows genuine change, not just the passage of time. The US can apply that logic within its own legal framework, without erasing accountability. Across the country, you can find pilot programs inspired by this philosophy. Some prisons are redesigning a unit to be calmer and more home-like. Some are sending officers through conflict management training, emphasizing communication over force when possible. Others are doubling down on re-entry. IDs in hand before release, a phone already set up with a calendar of appointments, a job interview on the books, and a mentor waiting at the gate. Early signs from these pockets are promising. Safer units inside, smoother transitions outside. 3 pillars that actually move the needle. If you remember nothing else, hold on to these 3 pillars. 1. Humane design. Spaces that look like life teach people to live. 2. Pro-social routines. Purposeful days, school, work, cooking, cleaning, build muscles you need in the free world. 3. Strong re-entry handoff. IDs, housing, treatment, and a real human connection on day 1 outside turn cliffs into paths. When a system aligns around those pillars, rehabilitation stops being a slogan and becomes a schedule. Return to those 2 doors. The first teaches you how to survive a world of concrete and command. The second teaches you how to survive your own impulses, your boredom, your anger, your fear, so you can survive freedom. One door feels tough because it looks tough. The other is tough because it asks you to change. And that's the quiet, radical point of the Norwegian experiment. The real measure of a prison isn't how hard it punishes today, it's how little the community suffers tomorrow. If this breakdown challenged your assumptions even a little, tell me in the comments, what's the one change you'd try first where you live? Officer training, family contact, a dedicated re-entry unit? I'm reading every response. If you want more deep dives into ideas that actually make communities safer, hit subscribe. Give this video a like so more people find it, and share it with someone who thinks soft and safe can't go together. New episodes every week. See you in the next one.